Hi guys, if you're new here, my name is Sam and I make videos about makeup, chronic illness, and whatever I want. Today I'm super excited to be talking about our home makeover situation. I think I've mentioned it in passing a few times in multiple videos, and I've definitely been posting about it on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, you definitely should. I'm very active on there. So I'm glad I could finally talk about this because now I can stop being super careful about like posting pictures of the cats and stuff, because I've been trying to make sure I don't reveal literally anything, and I think I've been okay. I kind of like hinted at a few small things, but mostly I've been able to keep it quiet. Anyway, for like the last month to month and a half, we have been redecorating the main part of the house, including our living room and the kitchen. When we moved in, we mostly just picked like neutral colors that were kind of just like agreeable gray, but not gray. I ended up doing gray on like everything else that I chose when I was like picking stuff out. Eric didn't really have like much opinion, just kind of like we had just agreed on neutrals. So that's really what we went with. The only exception being the bedroom. We knew we wanted something deep, dark, and cozy just to wind down and relax when we went into bed. But our minds never thought about the fact that we could do that in any other part of the house. I did obviously end up painting this room black, as you can see, but it was in a conversation that was kind of like, oh, I've always sort of wanted to have like a black room, but like you can't do that. And it was kind of like, why not? And then I did it because I'm like, all right, it's just this room. It isn't the main part of the house. Like if I hate it, it isn't a big deal. I can just cover the walls with art. I ended up loving it, and then when Eric decided he wanted to redo his office and decided he wanted to go darker, we got to talking and realized we'd actually really like to take the whole house darker, and now we are here. It obviously took a few weeks to pick paint colors. I knew for sure I wanted green in the kitchen. We were already doing kind of like a Sicilian sort of southern Italy theme with like olives and orange and lemons with decor type stuff, so picking something that already like went with that, but also we just really liked the color. We liked the idea of a deeper green. That was one of the things Eric had originally thought for his office, but he ended up picking a brown. So green just made sense in the kitchen. We already had a mint color that actually my best friend and her mother-in-law picked, and this green somehow looks even better than that one did. With the cabinet colors and the floor colors, it was just a really easy choice. That was probably our absolute easiest choice. So I'm gonna go over each room a little more in detail on its own. We're gonna start with this room. This is sort of a room that never really had a purpose. We got the bar because it is a really cool focal furniture piece. We don't really drink at all, but just the build of the furniture, the look of liquor bottles, it just like looked really neat. It's a great statement piece, and you know, there aren't kids or anything, so it's like, what were you going to do with this extra space? We thought it'd be fun to make something that just was really cool to look at. However, the room never really felt like it had a purpose. It had a, you know, big decor piece, a main focus, but your focus never went there because it was always full of cat toys or just, you know, the coats laying around, or when things needed to go to the shed, they would just like sit there. And so the room always just sort of felt like a room. It never felt like you looked at a space and knew its function. It just was a space that existed. So the main goal was to, let's make this room have a purpose. It started with the cat trees. The cats really like to be out in the main part of the house, so it only made sense to not hide the cat trees away somewhere, to put them there, and they also just fit best in this space. The cats practically live on the trees here, so it's a very good call. But the room is not just going to be the cat room, so how do we make this distinction? That was when we started just taking little things we already had around the house. The chair was in my filming room. I realized I would really like to have a desk in here that isn't just my vanity, like a proper desk for sitting and either editing when I feel up to sitting to edit, or, you know, filling out a planner, or, you know, just addressing envelopes or something for Christmas cards. Just a proper desk space. And for a while I had it in a different room and I just would never end up using it. It seemed inconvenient, so it only made sense to have it in here. So what do I do with the chair? Well, maybe the chair will go good in the front room. It did go good in that space. So slowly coming together. All right, let's make this room. You have the bar to look at, but what if it's just kind of like a cozy place to sit and drink coffee or sit and put your shoes on? The entryway table was no longer working because it used to be where the cat trees are, and it was just too big for the space it was. It looked clunky, it just wasn't functioning, and it was too easy to get cluttered. So I measured, and there's a shelf that matches the TV stand that we switched to perfectly. It's the same line of IKEA furniture, so that's a great way to tie those two rooms together. Gives us some space for, you know, items like, okay, this specific thing needs to go outside, or I need to return this to the store, so I set it there so I see it as I'm going out the door. That's great. We want the cozy feel. I found a new lampshade with a brass interior, and brass is the little sparkle detail I've been decided went well with everything we were doing, so we really stuck with that. So I find that. The lamp used to be in the living room, but it functions better out here next to the bar. I found this little side table that just really spoke to us. It just got stuck in my head, and it's part of this retro line that IKEA has, so we snagged that really quick. And Eric just one day was like, what would you think of cowhide in in front of the bar? And that was the final piece. It just tied everything together. Add in some little brass details like the plant holders, and there's these little votive things, and this bar sign we've actually had. I think I got at the Target dollar spot years ago. And there we go. We obviously have some more small details. I have things to hang on the wall, but you're supposed to wait about a month, so we have a few more weeks before I can start hanging things back up. We need to rehang the coat rack, get the coats up. Right now they're just on the chair, and that space, it just finally has a function. The cats have their small part. A small part is the entryway, but then you have a cozy bar lounge area, which whether you use it for the bar or not doesn't really matter, but it looks great. And my best friend had mentioned it just looks like a cozy spot to start your day or end your day, and I definitely agree with that. You know, you get up, you can open the curtains, have a cup of coffee, just sit there, and it's comfortable, but not sink into the couch and possibly fall into a nap comfortable. So we're both very happy with how that turned out. Moving on to the kitchen. This one was pretty easy. You know, we had already started redecorating when the panorama started. Adding the little details like the basket of fruit. I got the curtains maybe last year. I don't quite remember. So little details here and there. And so it was mostly painting, but then we discussed upgrading the knobs. They were just brass, brushed nickel knobs. They weren't very exciting, just builder grade. They were just eh. So I started looking for brass knobs, and I pointed these out to Eric. I was like, these are kind of cool because they're not just knobs, they're little handles. And we went into IKEA. Again, IKEA. We should be paid by IKEA because our whole house is literally like a showroom. And they worked really well. I'm glad Eric is super handy with power tools because I am not. And he was able to do the drawers because the drawers were a little thicker, so the screw wasn't long enough. So he was able to drill out a little of the wood so the screw would fit. And they just look phenomenal. They somehow changed the whole kitchen. The paint helped, but just that little finishing touch on the knobs. So there's not really much more to say for the kitchen. The color we used was Benjamin Moore Guacamole. Those were really the only two things we changed. I've added some more faux plants up in the top. They need little pots, so it's not just black on a dark green wall, but that was probably the easiest room to do because there wasn't really much to do there. Finally is the living room. The living room and the other front room, as we call it, are the same color, Benjamin Moore Salamander. Eric pointed this color out when I had all the things I was going back and forth. I obviously liked this color, but I was looking at a different one that I'm forgetting the name of, and he thought this one looked the best with the green, and we went and got the little paint chips, and I think he might have briefly considered it for his office, but like I said, he ultimately decided on brown, and he, you know, handed it to me so I could put them all on the wall, and he's like, well, I think I like salamander best, and I agreed. It did look really good with the green, and they describe it as like a chameleon color, and it's so accurate because as I'm talking, I'll be putting pictures up so you'll see. It's different in all light. It's different in the daylight than it is in like with an overhead light, and it's different in like lower light with the lamps like we have. It's truly the most unique color I have ever seen. Makes sense why it's one of their most popular paint colors. I can see why so many people would be interested in it. And I'm just so happy with that choice because we weren't sure if we wanted to stick with blue. We weren't sure if we wanted to do all green. And like with this color, you definitely get both. So I spend majority of my time on the couch because you just get tired of sitting in bed all the time, and mattresses are expensive. You don't want to wear your mattress out by being on it all of the time. So I spend most of my time camped out on the couch. And so my goal was a really cozy wind down spot that wasn't overstimulating. It just felt not like a bedroom, but cozy enough that I could relax and be comfortable, and I think we definitely accomplished that. And the living room was the one where we started here and there, like little piece here and there. With disability and chronic illness, you can't just do a project. The living room was the longest one because it was the room that's used the most, the room that has the most stuff, and the room that we had a very particular vision for. So it was a lamp here, a shelf there, a picture frame, something. And it was like piece by piece would come together. And so you'll see like all sorts of photos of like, hey, like it looks exactly the same, but I moved the bookcases. Hey, it looks exactly the same, but we got a new lamp. Hey, it looks exactly the same. Because again, besides energy and the physical ability, it's also money, you know, doesn't grow on trees, unfortunately. So you try to like space these things out, but also just trying to make the decision. Once we really focused in on the vision and knew exactly where we were going, it like sped up. We were due for a new couch cover because the one we had was incredibly sun bleached and the cats had absolutely demolished it. So it made sense. Like, let's change the couch color to something that fits the new aesthetic a little bit more. The silver shelf I got, this was just like a sign from the universe. I needed something that fit in this space and was tall enough off the floor because there's a heat vent under there. It was tall enough to put a deflector to push the heat out. And this shelf fits like a glove. Fits over the deflector with like an inch to spare. It fits perfectly in between all the shelves. We do plan to, Eric's idea, spray paint it brass to match all the other details, just tie everything together. So spring gets here, that's one of the projects. The coffee table was actually not the planned coffee table. We saw this surfboard shaped one at IKEA that was really nice, and I fell in love with it, but I went back and forth on it because it was wildly expensive for particle board, and it is particle board. It was probably $400, $500 even. I don't quite remember. I want to say it was $395. I'll have shown you at this point. And I don't know. Something about it didn't feel right. I wasn't quite sure the space with the, not the ottoman, the space with the chase, that it would work amazing or look quite right. And so I couldn't pull the trigger, and I did a little looking, and I found this on Wayfair. It was on sale for 58% off, I think. So I ended up paying a third of what the IKEA one, and this one is actually solid wood. So I think the shape fits perfectly. I think the vibe is great. It's truly another meant to be moment for this entire project. The final thing is, this isn't exactly the living room, but I'm counting it as the living room, is we decided to add this plant wall here. And I'm sure you're wondering, you have all of these faux plants, how the heck do you dust them? And I'm here to say that IKEA faux plants are super easy to dust. They aren't too stiff and they aren't very hard, so you can truly just run a duster. And if it is something awkward and it's not quite working, you can just like put a mask on, take some canned air, and have like an air purifier like sucking up the dust as you're spraying it off. Those are my little tricks. The plant walls look fantastic. This was another Eric idea. He really wanted something like that in his office, and it just looked so good that I was like, you know, I kind of want to be a copycat and do that out here. Unfortunately, these are being discontinued. They are still available at IKEA, but the amount is unknown. I don't know if they'll be replacing them with anything, but I just thought I would share that little tidbit. There are still some small things to do. Like I said, we have things to hang on the walls. I have stuff to spray paint. Like we have curtain backings that they're on rings, and they went great with the old curtains, but the new ones, because they're hung differently, the rings will be visible and they're silver. So I need to also spray paint those brass to match the brass ones that we have up there. We eventually want to upgrade the chair that's still here, but that is low priority. The chair that we would like to get will have been on the screen. We're just not in a rush for that. Also, who wants to carry in a chair when it's snowy and icy? So maybe over the summer, we'll see. Well, that's about it. I know I mentioned in another video that I did not make this a vlog because it was too much. It's, as a chronically ill person, when you have to like manage every second of your actions, it was too chaotic and way too much work to try to bring out lights and move a camera around and stop and start, and it was just completely undoable for someone like me. So I thought this was a better way. I just took pictures of every little progress bar moment and thought I could just kind of do a sit down talk for, 15 minutes and just piece it all together. I am very excited to show this off because we just worked so hard with planning and the actual work and, all the little details. I really like interior design. I think it's really fun to just design and style things. I'm by no means a professional, but it's just a fun little hobby. So this was a really fun project that I'm glad we were able to do. We pretty much got the whole house done at this point, which is nice. Oh, the rug was ruggable. I realized I didn't mention the rug, but that was probably like the least labor intensive part of the whole thing was the rug. I mean, even putting the new couch cover on, we had to completely disassemble the couch to put it on, so that stuck out more than the rug. I do look forward to sharing some information about this. I have some videos planned about how to do home projects like this when you do have physical limitations. Just knowing that even though you do have limitations, these things aren't off limits. You just have to approach them a different way. So that's a video I'm looking forward to filming. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And let me know down below, do you have any home projects planned? What do you think about like the big reveal, how we change things? Like, are you someone who likes dark cozy colors, or do you like brighter colors? Just tell me your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you guys next time.